Behind every gunfight, every line of grit and glory of Tombstone, there was chaos. A director fired mid-shoot. A star secretly running the production. Cast members pushed to exhaustion under the Arizona sun. Val Kilmer became immortal as Doc Holliday. But what he went through to play him might be the film's darkest secret. From power struggles and last-minute rewrites to moments of pure accident that made movie history, this isn't the Tombstone you think you know. Fact 1. Kurt Russell, the secret director of Tombstone. Officially, Tombstone had a director, but behind the scenes it was Kurt Russell quietly running the show. When the production began to fall apart, scripts changing mid-shoot, the cast losing direction, Russell stepped in. He reorganized the schedule, chose which scenes to keep, and guided the film back on track. Director George P. Cosmatos held the title, but even he later admitted it. Kurt was steering the ship. Russell never took public credit, yet without him, Tombstone might never have made it out of Arizona. Fact 2. Val Kilmer versus Willem Dafoe. Before Val Kilmer became Doc Holliday, the studio had another name in mind: Willem Dafoe. He had the voice, the danger, the unpredictability. But after his controversial roles in Platoon and The Last Temptation of Christ, the studio got nervous and passed. The part went to Kilmer instead, and it's hard to imagine anyone else. His haunted drawl and fragile charm didn't just play Doc Holliday, they made him legendary. Fact 3. The brutal shoot. Tombstone might look effortless, but filming it was pure endurance. Under the scorching Arizona sun, actors wore heavy wool costumes and fired real guns through endless days that ran from dawn to midnight. Crew members collapsed, and sickness spread. Michael Biehn called it boot camp with cameras. Sam Elliott said it was the toughest shoot of his life. They weren't acting tough. They were just trying to make it through. Fact 4. Kurt Russell's fight for Wyatt Earp. Kurt Russell wasn't the studio's first choice, or even on their list. They wanted a more traditional leading man. But Russell saw Wyatt Earp differently. Flawed, grieving, and full of quiet rage. He fought for the part, and even after winning it, the studio doubted his look, his tone, even his mustache. He didn't get the role by blending in. He earned it by daring to be different. Fact 5. The ending that almost never happened. The original cut of Tombstone ended with Wyatt Earp riding off alone. No goodbye to Doc, no redemption, just silence. Test audiences hated it. The film felt cold and unfinished. So the studio ordered a last-minute rewrite and reshoot. Doc's hospital farewell and Wyatt's snowy epilogue with Josephine. It cost time and money, but it gave Tombstone its heart, turning a bleak ending into one of the most memorable finales in Western history. Fact 6. The script nobody wanted. Before Tombstone became a classic, no studio wanted it. Writer Kevin Jarre spent months crafting a rich, emotional Western, but executives called it too long, too serious, and said the genre was dead. The script was shelved, forgotten. Jarre refused to quit. After endless rejections, an independent financier finally took a chance. When Tombstone became a hit, those same studios came knocking. Fact 7. Not everyone was excited. When Hollywood brought Tombstone back to life, the real town of Tombstone, Arizona, wasn't thrilled. Locals called the script inaccurate and too violent. Some even wrote letters demanding production be stopped. The crew ignored the backlash, though tensions ran high. A few scenes were moved, and officials debated limiting access to landmarks. In the end, filming continued, but the message was clear. Tombstone belonged to history long before Hollywood claimed it. Fact 8. It almost broke the production. The movie's most iconic gunfight nearly destroyed the shoot. Dozens of camera setups, live gunfire, and explosions, timed to the second, turned a few minutes of screen time into 4 grueling days. Actors were bruised, props wrecked, and by the final take, some crew members just covered their ears. Fact 9. The duel that nearly broke Michael Biehn. The showdown between Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo is one of Tombstone's most haunting scenes, calm, tense, and deadly. But off-camera, Michael Biehn was falling apart. Filming under the brutal Arizona sun in heavy black wool, he was dehydrated and exhausted by the time cameras rolled. When Ringo sways and looks dazed before the draw, that wasn't acting. Biehn was on the verge of collapsing. The take stayed in the final cut, making the scene's eerie stillness feel all too real. Fact 10. Val Kilmer becomes Doc Holliday. From the moment Val Kilmer arrived on set, he stopped being Val and became Doc Holliday. He changed his walk, slurred his speech, and carried himself like a man wasting away. Off camera, he stayed in character, distant, quiet, unreadable. Kilmer never broke the illusion, not once. For the entire shoot, the line between actor and legend simply vanished. Fact 11. Every button, every boot. Tombstone's costumes were historically perfect and brutally uncomfortable. Heavy wool coats looked great on camera but were unbearable in the desert heat. Actors sweated through layers, some even fainted between takes. Val Kilmer joked that playing a man with tuberculosis in those outfits was the most method he'd ever been. Authenticity, it turns out, came at a price. Fact 12. The Duel of Minds. That sharp Latin exchange between Doc Holliday and Ringo wasn't just great writing. It was Val Kilmer's research at work. He consulted historians and Latin experts to make every line authentic to the time. The result? A battle of words as deadly as any gunfight, and one of the smartest showdowns in Western history. Fact 13. Dana Delany as Josephine Marcus. Dana Delany wasn't the studio's first pick for Josephine Marcus. Far from it. Producers wanted someone with classic Old West glamour. But Delany saw Josephine differently. Strong, independent, and quietly rebellious. She didn't play to seduction. She played to strength. It wasn't what casting expected, but it was exactly what Tombstone needed. Like Josephine herself, Delany earned her place by refusing to fit the mold. Fact 14. The heart of the story. Doc Holliday isn't just a side character. He's the soul of Tombstone. And that was no accident. As chaos took over the set, Kurt Russell quietly took charge behind the scenes. Watching Val Kilmer's performance, he realized it was something special, something the film needed to breathe. So Russell made a rare move. He cut some of his own lines and shifted the focus to Holliday. It wasn't ego, it was instinct. Sometimes the best way to lead is to step back and let brilliance take over. Fact 15. Sam Elliott versus Kurt Russell. Sam Elliott seemed born to play Virgil Earp, calm, strong, and grounded. But before filming began, he nearly quit. Rewrites had stripped the script of the quiet depth that first drew him in. Feeling the story lose its soul, Elliott called the producers ready to walk away. Then came a long talk with Kurt Russell. Together, they went through the script line by line, restoring Virgil's strength and dignity. Elliott stayed, and Tombstone kept its heart. Fact 16. Wyatt Earp's real-life showdown. That unforgettable scene where Wyatt Earp walks through gunfire and drops Curly Bill with one shot? It wasn't just movie magic. History says it really happened. In 1882, Earp charged into a creek under fire, stayed calm, and killed Curly Bill with a single bullet. Historians debate the details, but Tombstone didn't have to exaggerate. The truth was already legendary. Fact 17. The composer who saved the sound. Bruce Broughton wasn't the first choice, just the one who showed up when time ran out. With the original composer gone, he had 4 weeks to score the entire film. No prep, no themes, just instinct and pressure. He crafted haunting melodies for Doc's frailty and quiet fury for Wyatt, creating one of the most powerful Western scores of the 90s. Fact 18. Val Kilmer's painful perfection. Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday wasn't just charm and swagger, it was the slow unraveling of a dying man. He studied 19th century medical journals, learning how tuberculosis crippled the body, then built that pain into every breath and movement. The slumped posture, labored voice, and ghostly pallor weren't accidents. They were calculated. Kilmer didn't just play Doc Holliday. He lived his decline with haunting precision. Fact 19. The Western that beat the odds. In the 90s, Kevin Costner's Wyatt Earp was expected to be the ultimate Western. Big budget, big studio, big hype. Then came Tombstone. Smaller, messier, and barely promoted. Yet when both hit theaters, Costner's film fizzled while Tombstone exploded. Fans quoted it, critics praised its grit, and it outlived the prestige version entirely. Fact 20. Doc Holliday's real last words. In Tombstone, Doc Holliday's death is quiet and peaceful, but the real story is darker and oddly poetic. Dying in a Colorado hotel, he looked at his bare feet, smiled, and said, "This is funny." The gambler who expected to die with his boots on had finally lost his last bet. Tombstone itself wasn't perfect. It was messy, chaotic, and nearly fell apart. But like Doc, it endured with grit and heart, becoming a legend that still refuses to fade. There's no normal life, Wyatt. There's just life. Fact 21, saving Tombstone in the editing room. When filming wrapped, Tombstone was a mess. Scenes out of order, missing moments, and storylines full of holes. Editors came and went, struggling to make sense of it all. One even joked, "We weren't cutting a movie, we were stitching one back to life." But through long nights and instinct, the film slowly found its rhythm. The final cut wasn't perfect, but it had something better. Heart. It didn't just work, it breathed. Fact 22. The original director was fired early on. Tombstone began with high hopes and fell apart within weeks. Screenwriter Kevin Jarrah was hired to direct his own script, but filming moved too slowly and chaos took over. Scenes dragged, costs rose, and the cast grew frustrated by the lack of direction. The studio stepped in and fired Jarrah before the film found its footing. It could have ended there, but that shakeup paved the way for the unexpected leadership that ultimately saved Tombstone. Fact 23. The famous line was improvised. Some of cinema's best lines happen by accident, and Tombstone was no exception. "I'm Your Huckleberry" was in the script, but Val Kilmer's delivery made it legendary. His calm, eerie tone turned a simple phrase into the film's defining moment. It wasn't rehearsed, just instinct. A mix of charm and danger that instantly became the heartbeat of Tombstone, and one of the most quoted lines in movie history. Fact 24. Michael Biehn nearly collapsed on set. Filming Tombstone pushed Michael Biehn to his limit. During the intense showdown between Johnny Ringo and Doc Holliday, he stood under the brutal Arizona sun, dressed in heavy black wool. Exhausted and dehydrated, Biehn's balance slipped, but he stayed in character. That dazed, unsteady look in the scene wasn't acting. It was real, and it helped make the duel one of the most haunting moments in Western cinema. Fact 25. Townspeople wanted it shut down. Not everyone was happy to see Tombstone filmed in the real town of Tombstone, Arizona. Locals and historians called the script inaccurate and too focused on gunfights instead of real history. Some even sent letters demanding production stop. Tensions got so bad that scenes were moved, and officials debated blocking landmark access. The crew kept filming, but the message was clear. The town belonged to history long before Hollywood showed up. And there you have it. 25 weird, wild, and unbelievable facts that prove Tombstone was just as intense behind the scenes as it was on screen. Which Tombstone fact surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Hollywood's toughest shoots, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories about the making of Tombstone, 1993, and other classic films that changed movie history.